Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor, you have a visitor in the main lobby.
Hello and welcome to the Talk To Th3 Doc podcast, where we explore real-world challenges of organizations. That includes how leaders must manage turnover, the economic uncertainty of our climate today, balance innovation, drive culture, all those things, and still drive growth. So I'm your host, Steve the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is in. Today we've got a great guest with us, Borja Cuan. Will be spend a little bit of time with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to the conversation today.
So Borja is the founder of Four15 Digital. And actually, I'm just going to have him tell a little bit more about himself. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation today. My name is Borja Cuan, as you said. I co-founded a digital marketing agency called Four15 Digital. We are 9 years old, on track to manage about $300 million in advertising spend in 2025 across Google, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Microsoft Bing. 3 offices, 2 in California, 1 in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And essentially what we do for businesses of all shapes and sizes and stages of development is we help them scale through digital marketing across the channels that I mentioned. So businesses come to us, and the problem we're solving for them is how do they reach their customers across the different marketing platforms, ad platforms that exist. And so we build the strategy, we execute against that strategy. We're building the campaigns, optimizing the campaigns. We're targeting their users based on the ideal customer profile that they have, and ultimately driving pipeline, generating qualified leads, sales, really some that ties to revenue. Ultimately, we're not looking to drive vanity metrics for them, page views or clicks. All the clients that we're working with are very specific with wanting something that will help grow revenue.
Absolutely. That sounds incredible. I think one of the biggest challenges today is with all the noise out there, having something that kind of states your presence and makes you known to the rest of the world. There's so much competition for people's mental state and what they're thinking about. And I'm sure you add a lot of value to the organizations that you work with. Now today, since we're kind of talking about scaling and growing and all those great things that organizations want to do, I'd like to dive right into the vitals. I guess I want to kind of get a sense of the state of the market from you. I think of that as a pulse. Do you have a metric for me there to think about or for us to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we're in I would say, a thriving business, meaning digital advertising, online advertising is growing exponentially. As you know, you're sort of on the internet. You'll see, advertisers, and you just said this yourself, right? It's very busy, very competitive, right? There are a lot of brands out there trying to gain exposure, recognition from consumers, right? And it's a lot about just getting people's attention. And how do you do that in what is a very cluttered, busy space, right? And so that's kind of what we spend our time on. So global ad spend in terms of size is likely going to surpass $1 trillion with about 75% of that digital for the first time. So just within the U.S., I think digital ad revenue, in 2024 was close to $300 billion, which was a year-over-year growth from the prior year of about 15%. So I think a lot of the dollars are flowing to what we're seeing, right? A lot of these, websites or platforms that we spend a lot of time on, Meta, Google, TikTok, Within Meta, that includes Instagram. So a lot of these are platforms that you're very familiar with, whether you're using them or not, you know they exist. And a lot of people are investing time by way of advertising and content creation because there's a large audience there that can be monetized. And so that's kind of the game that we're in, is just leveraging those platforms to help businesses scale. And not every platform makes sense for every business. It really depends on who their audience is. So depending on who they're going after, right, what the demographic is, will decide where to target ads. And in some cases, some platforms don't make sense for some businesses and not necessarily buying across the board.
And in the B2B world, that would be typical of kind of our small business that we work with. Is there one social media platform that you find more successful in reaching B types of targets?
Yeah, within the B2B market, we do have customers that are true SMBs, small businesses, to enterprise size businesses, so larger organizations. I would say for the engagements we've had with true SMBs, it's probably a combination of Google, Meta, even Yelp. When you're a small business, that tends to well. It's of entry, not a lot of maintenance required, and just kind of what I consider low hanging fruit. So why not do it? So Yelp and Nextdoor, those are more, I would say, applicable to a small business that's geographically maybe very specific in where they service their customers. And then Google for sure is also very beneficial for lead generation for a lot of small businesses, or Meta as well, lead gen campaigns. So we always say the best thing to do is experiment. We don't know definitively. Now, we have obviously found success having worked with a lot of different companies over the years, and we'll shorten the learning curve because through those learnings, we know what works and what doesn't work. But in the end, it's very sort of prudent to test on these channels with your offer, your creative, your sort of hook, and see how the market responds. And we can measure. What's beautiful about the advertising we do, it's all measurable. So there's no hiding, providing we set up the appropriate tracking infrastructure on a platform we will be able to report on the metrics that matter to that business, and then that data or the numbers are what inform us in terms of an agency and as far as where we should be investing or deploying the money for that client.
Now, in your efforts with your organizations, I know you deal with all breadths of organizations, but are there 2 or 3 metrics that you typically are common to all your clients, or that someone getting started might want to focus on to understand their success and what they need to be working on?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and interestingly, a lot of businesses don't know what those are when they start. So we hear that. We ask them, well, what is the goal that we have for the first 90 days numerically, right? Not just let's do X, Y, and Z, but what are the KPIs, like key performance indicators or success metrics that you'll be evaluating when determining if this is valuable or not, right? If this is additive. And sometimes they don't know. So we'll generally want to know what the cost to acquire a customer is, the CAC cost. So how much are you willing to spend to acquire a customer? Also, it could be return on ad spend. For every dollar you invest in digital marketing, how many dollars would you like to see in return, right? Commonly, it's, let's say, 3 to 4. And so it's a lot of, I would say, ROAS, return on ad spend. It's cost to acquire a customer. It could be, if you're B2B, cost to acquire a qualified lead, a marketing qualified lead. Those are typically the metrics that people are looking at, right? And what they view in order to determine whether they should continue to invest in digital or not.
Now, can you walk us through a little bit about what are the components to calculate what that costs to acquire a customer, what that number, how you come up with that number?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's how much did we spend in order for that customer to buy a product or sign up for a service, right? So we will know how many customers signed up for a service or how much product they ordered, and then how much in advertising did we invest in order to generate that sale, right? So, if it cost me $100 to get a sale, right, we need to know what is that sale worth, right? How much did they spend? It cost me $100 for them to buy a $5 product. Probably not. The
Right.
economics are probably not favorable. Now, it could be a subscription business where it's $5 recurring, and then that may actually make sense because the lifetime value of that customer might be 24 months, meaning they may sign up for a subscription and stay with that business for months. So it's really 5 times 24. So maybe acquiring them at $100 makes a lot of sense from a business unit economics basis, right? So, like, I think at the end of the day, it's really knowing, what your margins are as a business. So, if you're selling a product for $100, what is the profit you generate from that product sale, right? And that we don't know because we don't know all the costs that go into it, manufacturing, shipping. Like the customer has to know the business economics so that then we can do what we need to do our calculation, right? But just looking at it really simply, it's, how much did it cost you to get that sale, right? And how much was that sale worth? And then you can kind of determine what the acquisition cost is.
Well, let's treat that as the kind of the heart rate metric. What are you seeing in client acquisition costs?
I mean, over the board, there isn't one answer. It just depends on the business. Every business is different in what they have of a goal for an acquisition cost. So it's not really something where I could just say it's $50. We've seen in some cases, some people will spend $1,000 to acquire a customer because their product is very expensive, right? It could be a 6-figure product, right? Or it could be, B2B, you're selling something and it's a recurring revenue, right? Where when you land a client, maybe the sales cycle is a little bit longer, but then they're doing contracts, right? Where they're signing up with you for 12 months or 24 months and you're billing them $20,000 a month, right? So it really depends. It really is less about what is the common acquisition cost and knowing your business economics to determine what makes sense for your business based on kind of the margins, right? So it's all over the numbers $20 to thousands of dollars in terms of what the CAC cost should be. At the end of the day, it's really about driving efficiency in digital marketing. Every customer that we work with needs to see a return on their ad spend, right? So they look at the cost of advertising inclusive of our costs as a partner because we charge for services, and they basically say, okay, this is the total cost I spend a month in advertising, including your agency fee, and then let's look at how many sales we generated, right? And that's kind of the most simple way to do it. We have some businesses that actually look at profit, right? Like actual profit generated, right? Net margin, not gross margin. So it just depends on the business, and again, how they're looking at the business and what their kind of immediate goals and objectives are.
That parallels our world. In my world, there was a time where we were very project oriented, and kind of we use the term break fix. Now we're a lot more strategy driven. Kind of, I'm hearing a sense of the same from you, that kind of moving from that tactical spend to kind of more strategic growth, maybe client experience. Was that a transition that you had to take your agency through over your time in business?
Yeah, and I think you have to be tactical, right? There are things that need to be done on a day-to-day basis that require tactics, right? Someone who's in a more tactical role. Just I would say to keep things, um, using a language that you might relate to, just keeping the accounts healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's just very tactical work that needs to be done to ensure that things are sort of healthy within the account. But ultimately, where people get the most value is through strategy, right? So strategic growth refers to kind of deliberate long-term expansion that is driven by clear planning, right? So we are very intentional with that direction. As an agency, we're always sort of coming up with the strategy. And a lot of that is understanding and talking to business owners like you, which is it all starts with understanding what sort of the goals are that company, like where do they want to go and why, right? And then building a strategy around that. So we can't as a business map out a plan or build a strategy unless we know kind of where we want to go. And then once we understand that, it's about using our collective years of experience as digital marketers and having worked with a lot of different businesses to say, okay, now that we know directionally where you want to go and what some of the immediate goals and objectives are, let us put together a plan, which is really the strategy on how we're going to accomplish these goals and objectives. How are we going to achieve record results for you? And then that requires some strategic thinking. And so that's when we get to, just, coming up with, exactly what we're going to do, how much money need to accomplish this goal in terms of ad budgets, where do we want to deploy these ad budgets that would yield the best results. Let's work together on coming up with creative that will resonate with consumers or prospects out there. Let's look at the website. How is a website designed? Does it clearly explain what problem you're solving for, what type of services you offer, what your pricing is, what your value proposition and what is your competitive advantage over offers a similar product. So it's like understanding all those things, making sure that we have a great website, making sure that we have the right assets to go to market, i.e. creative, right? Not, and then within creative, it's what is the messaging, what is the offer, i.e. hook, how are we getting people to engage with this creative and take action, which is fill out a form, fill out a contact us, demo request, whatever it is. And then we test, but then we're in parallel doing work, meaning we're still coming up with new ads, right? We're still optimizing the landing page so that we're constantly experimenting and we're being very stubborn with trying to find the best performing ad. And then once we find that, then we're trying to find an ad that outperforms that ad. So it's a continuous thing. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have with digital marketing is it's sort of like you turn it on and then the sales start coming in, and they don't really understand the amount of required to make it successful. I think it's underestimated or undervalued in many cases, and ultimately you get what you put into it.
Now, you touched on a variety of different things there that I'd like to unpack a little bit, but I think the first thing is you talked about having, do they have a good website? In your mind, are there 3 to 5 characteristics that you think are important to having a good website in your mind?
I mean, like, your website is ultimately everything that we're doing, every campaign, right? Organic, social, email, influencer, it's all pointing back to your website, right? So if your website as a business is under delivering, it's slow, it's confusing, it's outdated, it's not clear, you're going to be affected from a conversion standpoint, right? Because ultimately your objective is to drive conversions. And what we're doing is we're serving an ad on the internet, Meta or TikTok or LinkedIn. And we're going to drive that user back to your website. May not be the home page of your website, but it will be a page that sits within the website. And so it's really important to have that optimized for optimal conversion rate. And by the way, it also is important for it to be optimized for mobile users, right? Which oftentimes people neglect. They build a a non-responsive site. They build a site that's good for desktop, which, as we know, a lot of people are visiting your website or accessing your website through a mobile device. So it's very important to make it sort of mobile friendly or responsive.
Yeah, people live their lives
So
through
for
their
me,
phone.
they do. And as a business, you need to basically not have an opinion on what you think. It's more where your user is going to access the information. And based on that, you need to build an experience around that. So a good website does three things. It communicates value fast, right? Through headline, clarity, visual hierarchy, builds trust, right, with consumers. There's proof. It comes across as professional. And then it also is ultimately there to guide action, right? So we want people to take action when they come to our website. We're not just having them go there to read about something and then go somewhere else, right? So we need clear call to action buttons or messages. We need a very frictionless flow, right? And then, I would say if you have those three things, your cost to acquire a customer, your return on investment will increase, and you would see better results. Yes, I would say uh, before we would invest money in marketing on behalf of a business, we would absolutely, as part of our physical examination of the business, we would audit a lot of things. And one of those things would be their website. And if your website wasn't at the level we would need, we would make that a prerequisite to them spending money on digital, because we know that that would not create the outcome we want.
Gotcha. So the website's kind of the base, and then all your digital efforts point back to there, because that's going to be kind of the converting point of helping people understand, hey, here's how do we go to market, here's our business, here's our services, whatever that goal was out of that page or pages.
Correct.
Now, you also mentioned something earlier about ad spend or advertising budget. In your mind, is there kind of a range, a budget that organizations should look at to feel like, hey, I'm spending the right amount of money, the kind of growth that I'm pursuing?
I would say if we're starting with a new business that is financially constrained, so it depends on the stage of the business. Is this a more mature business that has a proven and has been investing in digital, so has a lot of historical data and is established, right, many years old? I think that's different, right? Because we already have access to a lot of information. They already have a cadence in terms of how much they're spending. So that's going to be very different. And it's going to be based on what they've seen success in. But if I'm talking to a small business who's getting their toes wet in digital marketing and wants to experiment and they don't know what the opportunity size is, what I would generally recommend is that they commit to investing about $25,000 over 3 months, over 90 days, right? To really see if this is something that has legs, or how much of an opportunity is this. It may be small, it may be large, it might be medium sized, we don't know. But I think what I would want to prepare them mentally for is an investment of about, let's say, $25,000 over 3 months. And at that point, we'll have more data to look at and be able to make, I would say, better decisions and what the budget should be subsequent to that. And really in those 3 months, and we're going to know much sooner than 3 months, we're going to get a lot of signals along the way. And respond to those signals in terms of directionally where we need to go, right? Do we need to improve this or that, or what is it that's not working? Let's double down on that. So I think it's a lot about just experimentation and understanding things over the first, 30 days. And then from there, we have something to sort of build on. And then from there, we decide, right, hey, this is $1 a month channel. Don't spend more than that, because more than that, we don't see the efficiency we want. Or it's, hey, we can spend a lot more. Let's throw more gas on this fire because it's really cranking. And we've seen that with some businesses where we start at small spend levels and then they grow over 6 months to spend 3 or 4x what we started with. So I think it's starting slow and steady. And if you're a small business owner, make sure you trust who you're deciding to invest on your behalf, right? Like if you're working with an agency, that's a very important job in that you're entrusting them to manage your money. So you want to make sure that whoever is in that driver's seat is really adept and they're capable of doing what you need, right? Because a lot of people out there, not all of them are going to treat that money as if it were own.
Sure, sure. Now, the last statistic typically consider the kind of a measure of strategy and those kinds of things. And I feel like we've talked a little bit about strategy already, but I kind of have to pivot a little bit just because I hear so much. Uh, you know, I think that everybody is utilizing a little bit of AI in content development now. But aside from content development, where else are you seeing kind of the marketing world, or where are you guys getting the most value from it in your own agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is definitely gaining a lot of attention. It has been gaining a lot of attention. And we are sort of we've been sort of operating with AI for a while. We're sort of working with Google and Meta, and they have algorithms. And so we're not, AI isn't a concept for us as an agency. We've been working with AI for many years now. I think some of the new advancements and developments around AI with ChatGPT and Claude and these tools that are available now are really important to embrace if you want to have an edge in digital marketing, right? I don't think you should be running from it. I think you should be embracing it and really seeing it as complementary to what you're doing. There's two points of view, which it creates a lot of efficiency, operational efficiency for us as a business. Um, in terms of how we get to do that, it's like example would be just from a creative standpoint, being able to cut production time on creative assets by 50 to 70%. Is a big
Wow.
deal, right? We can scale testing velocity rather than test 5 to 10 ad variants per week. Maybe now we can test hundreds of ad variants per week. There's automation of sort of routine media operations, and so I think for us it's a lot around, I would say, creative production. As you already said, content production is definitely another way that we use it. And the one thing I tell the team, having already experimented with this a lot, is just make sure that we still need a human to be involved when we're using AI. So don't rely on it solely. It's really important that we give it the right inputs and that we do a lot of quality control. Because a lot of times what we get from it, from a content standpoint or a creative standpoint, isn't exactly what we wanted. And
Sure.
so it's really important for us to be involved and not rely on it, because we can bring a lot of value as humans, right? And I think if we use it that way, the outcome is going to be very good. But if we don't use it that way, it's going to work against us. Clients won't like the ads. Clients won't like the content. The algorithms are going to reject it because created or driven. So we can't just rely on AI to do our jobs. There's still a large human component that's needed to ensure that the actual production or the quality of what is produced is good. So it's a tool, and like any tool, we should know how, when, why to use it. But the key takeaway for me when it comes to AI and the conversations that we're having as an agency is, let's embrace it. There's a lot of great things, and it's
Sure.
only getting better, right? And we're seeing it provide value to the way we work and the service we provide our customers, but we cannot rely on it. And in particular, if we want to develop authentic relationships with our customers, we should be not relying on AI, because when we're communicating with customers, as an example, sending an email or responding to an email or putting something together, people are going to know the difference between something that comes from you or is coming from AI. So it's be very careful, right? Because if you and I have a relationship and we've spoken before and we've exchanged many emails, and suddenly the way I talk to you changes, the use of vocabulary words changes, the formality to which I speak is different. People are going to sense that, right? And they're going to say, well, this doesn't feel like you. You don't use these types of words. You're usually not this formal. So just be very careful. They don't want to, that's not how you build a relationship. And if they view you as someone who's not thinking for yourself and trying to make effort by way of communicating authentically, I think it could actually hurt your relationship more than help it.
So, what I hear you saying is that you want to maintain real relationships there, and that still requires the human touch. That you can't just rely AI being who you've been, mimicking who you've been when you already have a real relationship with someone.
Yep, exactly.
Now, what about the impact of as times change? The times of everyone just Google foo and searching everything in Google. Now that's moving to all the various AI systems. Is that changing? Through Google, or is that I've even heard comments about how trying to market into the LLM so that your information comes up. Is that impacting business at all?
Not yet. I mean, we're still seeing a lot of search traffic through Google, but yeah, I think people are. We know consumer behaviors are changing. My behavior is changing as a consumer. So I see it from just personal usage, right? But Google still dominates search intent. People actively query ad bidding systems are mature and metrics are stable. So, that will change. I think, over time, ChatGPT, Claude, some of these other AI models are going to start taking away market share, right? Over time. But I think right now, we're not seeing the impact from search budget perspective. We haven't seen it really impact our business or our clients. But I will not sort of sit here today and say it will be this way forever. I think over time, as these things get better and more adoption occurs, going to probably create additional competition. And then how that all works out is, we as an agency will just, leverage, some of these interfaces, right? And so there's going to be opportunities for our clients to leverage, open, AI or Anthropic. Like there's going to be an advertiser model, right? So we're going to hopefully start being able to use these platforms to help our customers do the same that they're doing now. But now there's just other channels or platforms opening up for us. So for us, it doesn't really matter if these other players come in and take away from Google, because we just have more options, which is great. When there's too much reliance on one or two platforms, it makes it more, it's just better to have more diversity and more options for advertisers, because when you have the concentration of ad spend coming from one or two channels, puts a lot of risk on your business. So for me, having these additional options as they evolve and they come up with solutions for advertisers is great. We'll just learn how to use it and make it available to our customers, whether it takes from Google to go here, but we're still making it efficient. That's all that matters. I don't have a preference in terms of what platform, because all my decisions on where to invest is based on efficiency. So more options just means, for us, it's better.
Gotcha. Now, as a long time veteran and someone who's had a pretty good track record in organizations, what would be your advice to executives and other organizations that are trying to build that successful organization, trying to create a culture, trying to be kind of that market unicorn, if you will?
And this is for my business as an agency owner, or
just about your. I assume there's some parallels with the marketing and growing it. If you're rapidly growing organizations, you have to be really good also at you guys growing as well. I'm just trying to tap into some of your secrets for growth that you felt.
Yeah, for me, I knew when I started this business with my co-founder that we were entering a very competitive space. It wasn't going to be easy, right? I think there's a lot of great marketing agencies out there. And by the way, there's also not great marketing agencies
Sure.
out there. But this was a very commoditized, competitive, busy space. But I still was really excited about that challenge because I felt confident in our capabilities. We had both sort of been in the industry for a long time. Over those years, we had built a healthy network of people that we knew we'd be able to call, um, who likely needed our services. Felt that having experience working with agencies, we had always felt a bit underwhelmed in the service part of the process. We were always very impressed with the sales, but then once sales ended and we were in service mode, it was never great. And we said, hey, if we started a business, we know we could do this well. We're obsessive over customer retention, over customer service, over delivering value. We're good problem solvers. We know the business. So we felt very confident, even though there were going to be challenges, we were still confident that our capabilities would provide a lot of to them. And so over time, they would become referrals for us. So I think, the key I would say to this that we've had, a lot of it is building a team of you believe in that can do the job, right? I don't think it's an easy job. I think when you're in professional services, clients can be very demanding, rightfully so. They're under immense pressure to grow their business, right? Their compensation is often tied to growth their business, and they're in very stressful positions, right, where they too are being held accountable to a number, and so that typically trickles down to us as the agency partner, where a lot of that stress is pushed down to us, and then that comes to our team, and they're on the front lines, and they want to do good by the client, and they want to achieve goals or exceed goals. And so I think it's a hard job. And so finding someone or growing a team that is able to perform in that environment is not always easy, right? Because sometimes our customers are not reasonable, not necessarily logical. We still have to deliver our service. So really building a team that you think would flourish and do well in that environment is critical to the success of an agency, because without a team, you don't have a business. So really sort of sourcing the right talent, and making sure that you retain that talent is really important, because if you can't keep people as employees, it's going to be difficult to scale, right? You make a step forward and then someone leaves and then you're two steps back. So I think a lot of it, the success we have has been because we've been able to build a team that has done very well and has sort of helped our clients succeed, which ultimately is how we retain our business. But it's also, too, having a clear vision on where you want to go with the business, like what are the goals that we have, and sharing that vision with the team. They know how they contribute to helping us accomplish that vision or that mission.
So,
So coming up,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, how do you, you've kind of said some things around, employee turnover and some of those kinds of things. And so how do you, a lot of them are going to be in service delivery businesses as well. How do you manage through, client and employee turnover without losing momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I think focus on the things you can control is the first thing I would say, right? So, when it comes to turnover, there are some things you're going to be able to control and some things you can't control. So, for example, we've seen um, instances where we've had an employee and we have a very sort of close relationship. We understand what their personal goals and objectives are. And we've sort of worked with them to achieve those goals. They've grown, they've learned a lot. We've given them everything they wanted and more, and they still might leave,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are some things that no matter what you do, someone's going to do whatever they want. And so what I say is I feel good about that because at least I know that I've done everything in my power to make this the best place possible for them to work, right? So I've given them a lot of responsibility. I know what they like and what they don't like. So I've tried to remove most of what they don't like in their jobs. I've given them a lot of learning opportunities, training opportunities, promotions, more money, flexibility, all of the things that matter to them. And the reason I know they matter to them is because I've asked them, what is important to you? Like, what is the most important thing to you when you have a job? So really understanding each employee and treating each employee as unique versus a one-size-fits-all approach is very important, because what ticks for someone may not tick for the next person. So it's really sitting down with your team and being very clear in understanding what are their personal and professional goals and objectives with their time here, right? And then really mapping out a plan on how they can achieve that. And then periodically sitting down with them to make sure that we're on track to do that, right? Supporting them throughout the process, and then being very clear on how their position impacts the overall success of the business. So a lot of that takes time, but it's a really important thing to do when you have a business, is really creating bespoke sort of plans for each of your team based on what their needs are. And then just having a pulse on how things are going along the way. It's talking to them. It's doing a good job with communication. Also, not just making about work, finding common ground in things that maybe are not work related that they enjoy that we can do together, right? Could be as simple as let's have lunch together, let's grab coffee, let's maybe play a round of golf. So building relationship by way of not work is also really important. And that makes them feel like they're part of something. It's not just every time we talk, we're talking about work. Sometimes it's good to get to know someone on a more personal level and ask them how they're doing, what, how's their family, or what's the next vacation, or hobbies and things like that. So I think client retention is probably the most difficult thing as a business owner. And so we found ways to improve that retention rate, and no different than a client retention rate, but it does require a lot of personal effort, and like you got to make it a priority. You be heads down as a business owner,
Sure.
looking at the business economics and saying, I got to do this and I have to do that. Sometimes you have to take a step back and say, I have to make time for my team, right? If I'm just always thinking about growing revenue and profits and winning this business, and I do at the cost of my team's happiness, that's not going to help in the long run.
Now, you mentioned 3 offices across North America. Are you guys all in office, or do you have a percentage of your workforce that's from home or remote?
Yeah, we have 2 in North America and 1 in Mexico, 1 office in Mexico. And we've ended, we believe in sort of a hybrid model. We believe giving the team some flexibility, but we also believe in having immense value by way of being in the office together. So 3 days a week, the team is sitting together, having meetings together, having lunch together, grabbing coffee together, learning through osmosis, and just having intentional time where we're working side by side. We're big believers in having the team in office, 3 days a week. And what we've found is those that are in office versus working fully remote are happier, healthier, learning at accelerated paces, and just more. Like, we've just found that they're contributing more because they're in office. So I'm not saying that I'm speaking on behalf of every company. Some will be making it work fully remote, but we have found that the recipe for success for our business has been a hybrid model. And we're seeing a lot of value with people in person, spending time together and learning from each other.
Are there other things that you do that you feel might be unique in kind of that hybrid work model that make it a little bit more successful at employee retention?
I mean, not unique. It's just when we're together, we're hanging out. Like, I think the value you get when I was starting in my career, one of the reasons, and work from home wasn't even an option or a concept that was talked about when I was early in my career. People wouldn't work from home. It wasn't even, something that they thought of. I think I was always just looking forward to going into an office and seeing the people I work with, because I like them. I liked their, hanging out with them, and I liked working on projects with them. So I don't think there's anything unique that we do. I think when you like the people you're working with, going into an office and seeing them in person is enjoyable. And a lot of the value you're getting is learning from them, not just directly, but just overhearing conversations, right? And learning from, I learned a lot from listening to salespeople on calls. I would just be next in the cubicle over and I would hear a salesperson on a phone call and I'd learn a lot from them. So there's nothing unique we're doing. This is just, to me, very common sense stuff. You build relationships in person, not through Zoom. You might start a relationship on Zoom, but you cement it in person over a meal, over a meeting. So I think, anybody that this is so easy for me to debate when some people are like, well, everybody, working from home is fine. And I could never be convinced by anybody that graduating from college should be sitting in their apartment, remote worker for a company. They're doing themselves an immense disservice and not gaining the skills they need and developing the behaviors and habits they need to be successful. And I really have a strong opposition to companies that think that that's actually good for people. Now, if you're established and you've been doing this for 20 years, it's a different answer. But when you're right out of school early in your career, you need to be in front of people. You need to be in the office. And there is no convincing me that being at home is better than being in an office when you're very early on in your career.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of studies that talk about. Microsoft just did one related to the benefits of uh, innovation and collaboration when in office versus when you're remote. That people feel like they're more effective working remote, but that's because they're just doing rote work. They're not actually innovating or growing and some of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think some people, a lot of people say that, but when it's actually measured, it's actually different. I mean, I think if you were to ask people, would you rather work from home or not? 90% of people are going to say that. But just because they say that doesn't mean it's better for the business and it's better for them. It's just more convenient for them. And they love the flexibility and they love doing laundry during the day and doing errands. But
mhm,
I don't care about that stuff as a business owner. I don't care if you want to do laundry during the day.
exactly. Yeah.
That's not my problem. You can do laundry when you want, but when I'm paying you, you don't do laundry during the day. So again, I have a very strong opinion and I can't be convinced otherwise, even though I have an open mind. But the reasons people want to work from home, and a lot of the narrative comes from recruiters too on LinkedIn, because their job is 20 times easier if I'm an employer saying, find me anybody in the world versus someone that wants to work in an office. It's you make a lot more money as a recruiter. You have remote as an option versus in office. So they go towards the easy path. Therefore, a lot of their narrative is around remote is good. But all these tech companies are bringing people back for a reason. Facebook, Microsoft, Meta, Google, like all of them have decided to change. A lot of the banks, financial institutions, and there's a reason. They've done the studies. They've seen that people that work remote are not productive and they're screwing around and they're working from Puerto Rico. Now, that isn't 100%, but it's the majority. We know this, and that's why they're making those changes. They're not doing it because their businesses are thriving. If their businesses and profits were thriving, they wouldn't care where people worked. But they're seeing productivity levels the same way I've seen people working from home. Their productivity levels are different, and I work from home, and I productivity levels are different. So I'm a data point myself, right? I get distracted. I work, but I'm working probably at 70%. I think it's very convenient for people and they want it, but it doesn't mean it's best for the business, the client, or themselves. But yes, I see why people gravitate to working from home.
Well, and I think that's another big point. The other than saying you work remote, you're not as collaborative as you think you are. Another thing that the report said was that you think you're happier working remote, but the reality is when you're disjointed from people, when you don't feel like you're part of a team, you also burn out easier. You tire easier. You get sick easier. It's just, there's all these other side things that are you think you're looking out for yourself, but it's working against you as well.
Yeah, I think you're happier for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And I think some people just don't know what they don't know and they become comfortable, uh, i.e., lazy, right? I mean, like I said, before, the commentary was, I don't have to commute. because I waste time. Well, when I commuted on a train from the suburbs of the Bay Area to San Francisco, I was listening to a podcast. I was on a phone call. I was reading a book. I was very productive. So, that's just a very convenient thing to say. Now, by the way, do I think people should commute 2 hours a day for a job? No, that's like not really a good, maybe a good use of your time. But I just think they come up with a lot of reasons as to why they don't want to. But I think the most important thing is, how does it help hurt your career by being out of sight, right? And when I work at companies and I'm next to the founder executives and they see me and we just have these moments and opportunities to talk that otherwise wouldn't be available to us if I was remote, man, it makes such a difference. Makes such a difference, right? You're not going to do that if you're remote, because you would have to say, let's get on a Zoom call. And then a lot of these conversations are just very organic. They just happen because you're both getting water in the kitchen, or you're both having lunch, or you just pass each other, or the office door is open and you just say, hey, I got a quick question for you, right?
Yeah, I think to me, that's one of the big benefits. To me, it's so demanding having to have a meeting for stuff, as opposed to be able to just say, hey, quick question, quick question. It's in passing. To me, it just seems like a lot less stress than, hey, let me set up a call. Let's get on a call. Let's connect. It just feels different.
Yeah.
Well, Bora, if you knew this, but I'm a big movie fan, and one of the movies was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and one of his lines there says, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it. So before I hang up my stethoscope for our call today, and the credits roll, what's your closing scene? What's the one big takeaway you want to come away with from our discussion today?
I would say enjoy the journey, not just the destination, right? When you have a business, really take it all in, right? Embrace the good and the bad, right? It's not going to be all good and it's not going to be all bad, right? But try to enjoy the process, the journey, and remember why you're doing this, right? You did for a reason, and keep that in the front of your mind, because that will get you through some difficult times, and celebrate the victories along the way, right? They don't have to be big, they could be small, but celebrate them, right? They're milestones. Celebrate them, and just know that you're not alone when you have a business. It's always good to have a community of other business owners to talk to, because what you'll find is a lot of the problems or challenges that you're trying to solve are very similar as everybody else, maybe different scale of problems, but very similar, right? And so sometimes that makes you feel better, because you don't feel like you're on your own island and, oh, well, it's only me who's having this employee retention issue, or clients leaving, or you find that there's common ground. And then sometimes having a community of people that are in your spot who can relate to you brings you a lot of peace of mind, but also gives you an opportunity to maybe ask for suggestions or ideas on how to kind of work things. So I would say enjoy it. Try to connect with people that can relate to your world as business owners. They don't have to be the same type of business, but just people that have businesses. It could be a digital marketing owner, could be a dental practice. I mean, ultimately, a lot of our problems are similar. It's around human capital, it's around customers, it's around scaling, things like that. So that would be my closing commentary.
So I heard a few things there. First and foremost, enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. Secondarily, I heard you say things like celebrate small wins. Have a network. Any other things that go along with that big concept of enjoying the ride?
I would say invest in yourself by way of just your health is so important in business, in life. So I always say be selfish and find time for you to invest in your mental, physical, and emotional well-being, because the best version of yourself, when you're peaking in those areas, allows you to be more successful in business, because you're resilient. you're more resilient. You're able to absorb the not so fun stuff that comes along with owning a business, right? So there's a lot of stress and things like that. So don't neglect yourself on this journey. Make sure to take time to invest in yourself in those areas, because it's going to make you much more prepared to face a lot of those challenges head on and not take such a toll on you. So I think oftentimes people just burn out. They work, and they neglect themselves. And it's up to do that because it doesn't allow you to perform at your best in business when you've done that. You're not sleeping right. You're not recovering right. You're not sort of eating the right things, maybe too much alcohol, maybe not the right foods, maybe not enough sleep, maybe not going to the gym, things like that allow you to kind of make yourself healthier, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. One of my quotes is Abraham, like, if you give me 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 3 sharpening the saw or sharpening the axe. And I think similar to your concept that you got to take care of yourself, or if you're taking care of yourself, then you're better equipped. If you're always learning, if you're taking care of your mind, your body, all your life, all of those kinds of things, it makes you a better leader and manager.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, any other prescriptions that we can add on, or is that going to cover us for a little bit?
I think that's good. That's good. I mean, there's many prescriptions, but those two, right? Enjoying the journey and investing in yourself are 2 good takeaways.
All right. Now, for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Borja Cuan. Also, I am, go to our website, 415digital.com, and there you can find us.
Awesome. And we'll make sure and get that information into the show notes as well, in case anybody wants to reach out. Any free offers, or my audience loves free stuff. So if is there anything free out there that you can?
Yeah, we'll do a free audit of your business. We'll do a physical examination of your business if you're interested in talking to us. So yeah, I would say a free audit of your digital marketing programs.
Awesome. And as for myself, you can reach me at fulcrumgroup.net. Make sure you spell that all the way out, the Dr. DOCTOR. You can reach me on LinkedIn. If you do, make sure you mention the podcast because I'm kind of, being a cybersecurity guy, I'm sensitive about who I connect with. So just make sure you mention the podcast, since I shut down a lot of the invites I get. That brings us to the end of our doctor's appointment for the day. I think that in our conversation, we learned a little bit about the life of a digital agency, some of the thinking, the efforts that you have to go through. But I think we also learned that if you're trying to build a scalable business, it's more than just going fast. It's about doing the right things, having purpose, having the right people that you're working with, and the process that go along with them. So that's very similar to what we do in ours with around technology. If today's conversation gave you a few ideas, make sure you find us on social media and comment. If there's new topics that you want, make sure and mention that as well. And if you're not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe. And I think that's it. Borja, thank you for your time today. I always appreciate having a great conversation with someone. I'm your host, Steve, the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is out. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.